So I recently moved into a new flat, and the room that I'm using now as my home studio originally had horrible acoustics. So what I wanted to do to improve the acoustics in the room is add acoustic treatment. So that means absorbers, diffusers, all that kind of stuff. Now you can go ahead and buy acoustic treatment online, but that will cost you pretty much an arm and a leg. It's really expensive. So what I decided to do is to just build it myself. And it turns out it's not really rocket science. All you really need is a wooden frame, some rock wool to fill it up with, and some cloth to make it look nice. So I did some research to find out which materials I need, and then I went ahead and built these guys. So this is one of my absorbers. I've actually got a few of these on the wall. I'm going to show you the entire room in just a few minutes. Now before I go ahead and show you all the different absorbers that I built, let's do a quick comparison between what the room sounded like before I did the absorption and what it sounded like now. Alright, so to really show you the difference, I've quickly opened my door and I've now got my voice going into the hallway in front. So we've got stone floor, and there's pretty much nothing in this hallway. So we've got a lot of sound bouncing around this room. And if I clap, if I talk, test 1, 2, 3, right? I mean, there's a massive difference when we go ahead. I'm just going to carry on talking, and we're going to close the door, okay? So testing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you can see there's a massive difference compared to the sound inside of here, compared to the sound when we go outside, and there's a lot of echo. 1, 2, 3. And that is exactly why I had to treat this room. So my room was actually a lot worse than the hallway here is. And there are a lot of reasons for that, including that my room is perfectly square. I won't go into too much detail as to why that is in regards to the sound, but let's just start talking about the acoustic treatment that I added to improve the sound. Okay, so now that you've seen the big difference that the acoustic treatment in my room has, let me go ahead and show you what I've done here and how you guys can do it yourselves. Okay, so first of all, I've got these massive cloud absorbers right up on my ceiling. Now these guys are 2 meters long by 120 in their width, and they're 16 centimeters thick. Now that is real thick, and as far as I know, you can't actually buy these cloud absorbers in that thickness unless you go ahead and do some custom work, which is going to get really pricey. So I've actually got 2 of these. So one on each side of my room, giving me enough space in the middle to hang up my light. I'm actually going to be upgrading my ceiling lights here, so stay tuned for that. Then I've got 2 massive bass traps, one on the right hand side of my desk, one on the left hand side. And having these guys right behind the speakers is really important because they're going to catch and trap those bass frequencies straight away. Then if we turn around, here we can see I've got 3 different absorbers right on the wall. There's one right behind the lamp here, and I've got a spare one that currently I've got just sitting against the wall. Then finally, I've got this window cove, and this is a horrible, horrible thing to have in a room. These flat walls are basically like mirrors that just bounce the light back and forth, and these flat walls bounce the sound back and forth, and that has some real issues with the sound. So having these 2 absorbers on the walls does definitely do a good job. It's still not perfect. The window vibrates quite a bit, but there's not really that much I can do about this window unless I were to take it out or completely cover it up, and I don't really want to do that. Okay, so that is the absorbers I've got in my room. So how did I go ahead and build them? Alright, so I went ahead and started with the big ceiling clouds. So the main goal there was to try and cover as much ceiling surface area as possible. Now I already knew how I was going to build them using the wooden frame and filling it with rock wool. So I went and had a look at the different sizes of rock wool, the thicknesses and so on, so that I could match the frame size to the rock wool size so that I didn't have to do any unnecessary cutting of that rock wool. It's not a nice task to do. So once I had all of the measurements, I then went over to the hardware store, got my wood cut. I bought all of the rock wool that I needed, and then when I came home, it was literally just a matter of screwing those frames together pushing in the rock wool panels and then just wrapping it with foil so that the rock wool particles don't go flying around my room. And then once that was all wrapped up with foil, I would then wrap it up again with some cloth to make it look nice. Now the cloth I got was just some from IKEA, the cheapest stuff they had. And then I basically repeated that for all of the different panels in my room, just using different dimensions. So as mentioned before, the bass traps are 40 by 40 by 2 meters. For those, I did have to do some cutting to make, you know, the rock will fit. But then for the other panels, they're all 60 centimeters wide. And then I had 2 panels left from one manufacturer of rock wool, so they were 1 meter tall, but then I had another pack from a different manufacturer and those were 120 tall. So that is why the 2 panels in the cove, the window cove, they're both 1 meter tall, and then the 3 on the wall and the one that I've got standing here, they're both 1 meter 20 tall. So yeah, it wasn't necessarily a choice I made specifically, you know, saying that I needed them to be 120. It was just the rock wool that I had. All right, so finally, how much did it all cost? So broken down, the bass traps, they cost around 45 euros each. So both together were down to 90 euros. Then the absorbers on the walls, they're all around 25 euros. That's rounded up. And then the ceiling absorbers, because they're the biggest, they also used up the most materials, obviously. And they are about, I think they were about 80 euros each in material costs. Yeah, so altogether, we're roughly, you know, below 400 euros. And that's incredible, considering that a single bass trap with only 1 meter height can cost, you know, from 400 euros upwards. And these, you know, individual panels, you can get them, I think the cheapest I saw was, you know, around 150 euros. But even that is really expensive, especially if you want to start, you know, covering the entire room that you've got. So making them yourselves is a lot cheaper, and to be honest, it didn't take that long. As mentioned, I went to the hardware store, got all the materials I needed, and then at home it was basically like Legos, just putting it all together, screwing it in, you know, pushing in the panels, covering it with cloth with some tackers, and yeah, that was it. I really hope that this video was able to help you to get started on building your own acoustic treatment. If you have any questions, feel free to just put those comments right below this video and I'll do my best to answer them. So that's it for today, and I'll see you guys in the next one.